You're listening to a Pop House Network podcast for developers by developers. Welcome to Java OffHeap episode 82. Hey everyone, we're back with a very, very special fun episode because something got released that is of note while we were gone. For those who are tuning for the first time, my name is Freddie Game. I'm one of the principal engineers here at Expedia, speaker, author, presenter, and I'm here with my usual suspects.
Hey everybody, Bob Paulin, independent consultant from Chicago, Apache Software Foundation member, Chicago Java User Group Board Chair, Java Champion, and speaker.
Hey everyone, Josh Juno. I'm an application developer, database administrator, author, speaker, part of the JCP, the Jakarta EE Guardians, and Java Champion.
Hey everyone, Michael Manella, Senior Director responsible for the open source Spring team at VMware, author, speaker, Java Champion, curmudgeon at large. All
right. And before we dive in, I wanted to thank our sponsor. Today's show is sponsored by Datadog, a monitoring and analytics platform that integrates with over 450 technologies, including AWS services, Docker, and Kubernetes. Datadog's platform brings together metrics, traces, and logs in one place so you can get full visibility into your environment and improve your application performance. With machine learning-based alerts, customizable dashboards, and distributed tracing, Datadog makes it easy to unify disparate data sources so you can troubleshoot faster. Start your free Datadog trial today. Listeners of this podcast will receive a free t-shirt once you install the agent and create one dashboard. Visit javaoffheap.com/Datadog to get started. And again, that URL is javaoffheap.com/Datadog to get started. We thank them for, keeping the beers flowing and the mics on and recording. So give them a shot as Datadog. All right. So, awesome news, right? Like I know, and I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but actually I will spoil the surprise. Java 21 was released.
Yay!
So yeah, it's going to be like a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're super excited because that has been like the one. It's a long-term support release, and it also ones that includes Project Loom and all that stuff. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's just go with the news, and we're just gonna dive and dissect as we go through all the stuff that is happening on the Java space. All right, so I guess that was top of the news, right?
Well, so we already got the first one out. So, I mean, what do you want to talk about, Freddie?
So it's for those who don't know, it is I guess kind of reiterate, if you're not running on long-term support releases, 21 is the one to move towards to, right? If you're running on 8, please move 11 or 17. To be honest, I remember going from 11 to 17, that wasn't that big of a
no.
And 17 to 20, which I have done until past 2 weeks, it's still fine. The only thing is, you're dealing with JAXP and all that stuff, you might need to do some kind of song and dance because of the spaces that they moved for the Java X stuff. But aside from that, is usually mostly a very turnkey operation. So you should definitely get to 21 if you can. And remember, every time there is, even if you don't change a line of code, usually the JVM will bring performance improvements that just makes it worth it. You get those for free. There was Compact 64. Now the internals of the JVM with the new garbage collectors that they're coming in are free upgrades for your performance. And essentially, now that they're charging per cycle, they're actually essentially free money. So definitely upgrade those. The one thing I was starting to experiment with 21, and I was super glad, because usually Maven super easy to support any kind of like new JVM. Gradle still lags a little bit because you cannot run the Gradle wrapper on the latest Java because there's like Kotlin incompatibilities. Like they need to wait for Kotlin to release. But there was one thing that I discovered is called the toolchain on Gradle, where you can essentially specify the toolchain you want to use to build, but you can run Gradle in whatever you want to run Gradle in. So, you can still run it on 17, 19, and when it hits the toolchain, it will either, you can specify like, Adoption or whatever the big one is, to just download it, install it, build with it, and then continue running everything else on Gradle on your original Java 17 stuff. So now I can do 21 from day one. So I'm like super happy about it.
Yeah, and you can start experimenting with virtual threads if see if you get any benefit out of that for, if you're using an application container, a servlet container or anything like that has many threads running. I have that one earmarked for all my clients too, just knowing it's an LTS, knowing that there's some interesting new features. We'll be upgrading to 21 relatively soon. So
and just to point out with Jakarta EE and Java EE, I mean, if you are still using Java EE and Java 8, you migrate, because I mean, I'm looking at the release dates. I just thought I'd pull up for fun. Java SE8 was released in 2014, March. So if you're still using that, and then, SE11 even, it was 2018, right? And so, I can tell you that us that used Jakarta EE moved to Java 11, and it was like, it was just great. That was the biggest move we made in years. But now you can start to use JDK 17. You should at least be using that. And then with the Jakarta EE 11, which is supposed to be out next year, that's going to be 21. So we can't yet use 21 for Jakarta EE, but definitely should be moving up to at least 17.
Yeah. One thing, Java is obviously the foundation of a lot of our tech stacks, but this rate of change, every 6 months on Java's only one piece of that. And we're seeing more and more across the ecosystem, that rate of change is getting faster and faster, which means the length of time you can go between upgrades is getting shorter and shorter without it getting out of hand. So I can't emphasize enough. I agree with everybody on the call with regards to, if you are still on a 3-6 month release JDK cadence version, so what is that, 8 and before, get to one of those, because I think everybody would agree that once you're past that, once you're on 9 and above, once you get past the module system headaches that you're probably gonna have to bite that bullet, the rest should be relatively straightforward from one JDK to the next. That's by design. Java, for all the things you can complain about, one thing it's hard to complain about is the fact that it isn't backwards compatible. It is very backwards compatible. And so like dropping this stuff in, it enables you to take on everything else. It enables you to take on Spring upgrades, Jakarta upgrades, the Hibernate upgrades, like your entire stack. Until you do the Java upgrade, you're stuck on everything else. And I've noticed in a lot of enterprises, Java is typically not controlled by the devs. And so getting the team that does control that to get used to those quicker upgrades opens up opportunities for the devs. So working towards that as a North Star is highly encouraged.
Get your InfoSec department involved. They'll help you push.
Or if you're already on containers and the devs are running which version of Java, then it's on you if you haven't upgraded. So, I mean, again, it's if you're just upgrading the Docker container, it should just be a one-line change, right? As far as we're going from 11 to 21 or 8 or 17 to 21, whatever you're going from, make that change, make it deliberate, do testing, and get it shipped, because you will notice benefits. And again, you can experiment with other benefits that are now out of preview, because 21, a lot of stuff roll out a preview. I mean, so a lot of the pattern matching stuff is out of preview. Generational garbage collection with ZGC. So Freddie alluded to new garbage collectors. It's not just like experimental new garbage collectors. It's
now
production ready garbage collectors. So if you have those workloads that would benefit from those types of collectors, you can feel comfortable using those in production now.
Yeah. Now, there has been like everything else, like Michael said, like everybody's moving. Like I know like a lot of like the foundational tools for like web services, right? Like your Jetty, your all your Netty stuff. They have already created like new versions of the library that are ready to use or are using already JDK 21 features. So people are moving in because they know that this is the one that we all been expecting, and they have been experimenting with it for a while. So they're ready or almost ready to be out. So keep an eye for those for extra kind of like boost out of it. Like that is kind of like the fun part. And just to go like the reason why it's so interesting is Project Loom and lightweight threads makes it such that you can really use the hardware that you're running in a very efficient way without having to manage. If you've been managing circa 2015 thread pools and all this stuff and trying to make sure that they're sized correctly and queues and all that kind of like goes away with a lot of the Project Loom, because you don't have to manage threads anymore. It's just create a thread, make it do what it needs to do, and then let the system figure out what has space for what, right? So super excited. So time to play with it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We have another piece of new Oracle Java extensions for Visual Studio Code. Who was that?
I put this in there. This was something that actually was mentioned at, I believe it was mentioned at Java 1 last year. And it's very interesting for those who are using Visual Studio Code, because now the Java platform extension is there. It's available to use. This is something that it's been added to Visual Studio because Oracle thought that it would be a good thing to have this IDE, which is not totally targeted towards Java. It's targeted towards other languages as well. And they wanted it to kind of bring other people into the flow of, make it easy to use Java. So take a look if you're using Visual Studio Code for the Java platform extension.
Yeah, it does seem to be a big endorsement of Oracle for Visual Studio Code. Again, it does seem like there's a lot of momentum for that IDE. I do find it funny in the article how they still mention all the language server stuff is still being developed for NetBeans. But we ported it to Visual Studio Code just so you could use it there. Obviously they still have a little bit of their bias towards the NetBeans project, which is an Apache project now. But hey, we're going to make it work for Visual Studio Code as well.
So that is interesting. So is the GOTS NetBeans then? Like the backend engine is NetBeans for the Visual Studio Code plugin, or is it completely rewritten, like new thing?
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to guess that they've taken it and they've repackaged it for this purpose. I'm going to guess they took the code from NetBeans and repackaged it.
Well, language server is it's like a standard, right? So if you have a programming language, you can build a language server that will respond to any IDE over that if you implement it in that way. So it sounds like it probably wasn't a huge stretch for them to say, okay, yeah, we built this for NetBeans and now we're going to extend it so it works with VS Code.
I see.
But again, for me, it's more about an endorsement thing from Oracle to say, the folks at Microsoft are doing some good things with this IDE. I'm still an Eclipse user, Josh. I'm assuming you're still a NetBeans user.
Yes.
But I have dabbled with VS Code for various things, just for tooling and things that are getting support. And it's obviously it's the fact that this extension exists is kind of an endorsement to say, hey, this is here to stay for a bit. It's not going away anytime soon.
Does that mean that me and Michael need to rock, paper, scissors? Who's going to switch to VS Code?
You're both IntelliJ users, right? So I mean, it's
we got one.
Freddie, if it makes it feel any better, I'll make the switch, because the last time I actually sat down in IDE and wrote real code, it's been a while.
Michael still has the management lobotomy going on.
Fine. I do like my IntelliJ, but that's kind of fun. Now we have four IDEs to like talk about.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Next one I think is yours, Josh, too, right?
What is it? Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Jakarta E11, of course. Yes. So the timeline, the working group has gotten the timeline together, and we're moving forward with Jakarta E11 release plan now. And the span of June 2023, August 2023, that's when the release is going to be targeted for. So we're looking for, actually, it's going to be 2024. It's wrong on the page here. So it's going to be the 2024. I'm reading the page, and they're going to have to correct that. 2024. So we're looking at summer next year for Jakarta E11. And the release plan is here if you want to take a look at it. The individual release plans, I don't believe that every specification has really released anything yet, what they're planning on doing, but there are talks about what's going to be in 11, what the target is going to be. And as I mentioned earlier, certainly going to target Java 21. So it should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Nice to have changes coming. We had such a stall with Jakarta EE coming into place, where we didn't have any new features. Now I'm migrating things over to 10, and I'm like, whoa, man, new features. It's great. So.
All right.
Does this article cover any of the specs that, because I know there were some specs that didn't make it, some specs that didn't make it, like that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't have that on here. And I really can't speak to exactly what didn't make it. I haven't looked at that lately. Okay. So I don't think
on the release plan, there's a list of specs, but there's an asterisk against a bunch of them.
Yeah, I see that too.
I'm looking for what the asterisk means, and I don't find that anywhere. No fine print for the asterisk, because
updated specifications marked with so that means there's updated spec.
Okay,
that's what it says. So I mean, yeah, like I see servlet, for example, is an updated spec. Jakarta security is an updated spec. So I mean, it seems like almost like there's more updated specs than non-updated specs. A lot of movement on the specification space for this version of Jakarta. What's that? Sorry, I missed that, Freddie. What are you saying?
Sorry, Jakarta batch, it's still at 2.1.
Yeah, that one doesn't have a star. Why does that not have a star, Michael?
Because he hasn't opened an IDE.
Because I'm not writing code.
He's not writing the code.
I think it's more than that. But anyways.
Hey, and actually you can't blame me. IBM's the lead on it. So
the claws come out. All right. Yeah. So all right. So yeah, Jakarta EE getting a new release. Josh, is there anything specific in here that you're most excited about? Like, was there anything that changed a lot that you said, hey, we're upgrading our app at work, and this is great?
Right now, I'm in the 10 mindset. I haven't really looked too far into Jakarta 11. Unfortunately, I haven't had much time to do that. Yeah. But there are some things I was interested in, such as possibly getting record support into JPA, that type of a thing. Changes such as those, just relatively minor changes in the whole scheme of things, but nice things, nice features. So I've heard little things here and there about features I'd like to hear or see, but nothing
Josh,
major.
have you seen any roadmaps for any of the implementations? Because obviously, if the spec comes out, late summer next year, then the web spheres, the liberties, the
Right.
WebLogics, et cetera, have to then implement that. Have you seen any roadmaps for any of those to get an indication on when those specs can actually get in devs' hands?
Yeah, no, I've not, but I can guarantee that Glassfish will be the first, server to get there.
An unfair advantage.
But usually Pyara is not far behind because basically they are they're built on top of Glassfish. So I'm guessing that won't be too far behind, but no, I have not. Unfortunately, I haven't seen anything with like WebSphere or any of those when they're planning on getting on board with 11.
Okay.
But if it comes to anything, if what they've done with Jakarta 10 has anything to do with their getting on board, I think it'll be pretty quick, probably within couple of months after the specs are released.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Moving on. There is also Microsoft. Who did this one?
Oh, I think I added this one. So yeah, it's kind of just builds on the expansion of folks that are doing distributions of OpenJDK, as Microsoft is now publishing their own distribution of OpenJDK. And it's interesting because, Microsoft is partnering with a number of companies. So, they had the partnership with Azul where they were doing Zulu as a distribution on Microsoft. But now Microsoft is also cutting their own download of the OpenJDK. So, again, my read on this is, again, the more folks that are distributing the JDK that are doing it in a responsible manner, the better. Mm-hmm. The Microsoft JDK, again, is mostly there to support Azure, again, their own cloud, saying that, hey, if you're going to use Java on the Microsoft cloud, use our version of it. To try to just standardize around that. So they have released for Java 21, which is a good place to start, knowing what's there and the adoption for that. And I don't. So I guess the probably the biggest read on it is it's like so the why behind it. I don't see the why as like with not Cordova, Corretto, where it's, hey, Amazon is doing this to add some extra security fixes and things to say, hey, this is on our cloud. This feels like it's just a diversity play. Like, hey, we're another vendor that's going to be able to cut a release of the JDK.
I know.
Oh, you got it? All right. Please, Michael.
This is my theory given in VMware Spring Runtime, which is our extended support for Spring, does include JDK support, and that is bundled with our platforms. My take on this is that when you look at any platform that you're looking to buy, public cloud or private cloud, Java support is just going to be one of those checkboxes that everybody has to include. It's literally going to be like, I buy the platform, I get Java support with the platform.
Yep.
So when you look at Azure, when you look at this is Azure's take on that. AWS already has that. I don't know about Google off the top of my head. Oracle has it. If you're using Oracle Cloud, you get Oracle's Java included.
Oh yeah.
Google does not have its own JDK, as far as I know.
No, but I don't know if they've got support via some other vehicle.
I don't know.
VMware doesn't have their own JDK. We work with Bellsoft with Liberica for ours. But like I just feel that's where Java support is going. It's just this checkbox that you buy a platform if you intend to run Java workloads on it, or if you, as a developer of the platform, if you expect your clients to use Java on it, you just have to include Java support. Like the idea of bring your own JDK, I think, is going to be soon a thing of the past.
It's almost like you just put it on the Docker image for your cloud provider, and you're done. Like that's all you needed to worry about.
Well, yeah, but
except for key like performance exceptions, like then you get Azul and that kind of thing, like the.
But Azul, like Zulu, does as far as I know, does not have one of those. Like, so if you're talking about Zing, yes, like again, that is the paid product. You're paying for things that they have implemented, clean room, but have also met the specs, right? So that it will pass the TCK and everything. But it has their own internal, mojo to go on.
Yep.
With Corretto, like again, like Amazon was saying, hey, we are not just building the JDK, we're also adding some security fixes and things on top of that. What I haven't gotten, at least not from the press release, is, to your point, is Microsoft just checking the box to say, yeah, we're building mainline OpenJDK, or is this similarly an opportunity for them to say, hey, we found a CVE was released into the wild. We patched it and we released a JDK that has it with a patch release that maybe hasn't made it into mainline, or maybe we're the ones committing the patch to mainline and it hasn't been accepted yet. But here, customers, this is the fixed stuff.
So I actually think for Amazon, security isn't the key reason for behind behind
Corretto.
Snapstart is. I think that they actually have features in the JDK that are obviously not TCK and all that, but they do go directly to the consumption of their product. Lambda is impractical for the JVM in a true scale to zero without Snapstart. Java becomes a practical option to run Java workloads exactly with Snapstart.
Agree.
And so this may also be Microsoft exploring that angle as well. I don't know the full breadth of Azure to know whether or not there's a key capability there that they're looking to do that with. It may even be something. I mean, I don't remember if they've got Azure functions or not.
They do. There is a function technology. Okay. It's different than AWS. So I have some clients on Azure, so I am intimately familiar with some of that. But it's different than Lambda. I'll say that. Okay. In how it's implemented, in how it's supported. Could they do their own version of Snapstart? Sure. Yeah. I mean, that could absolutely be there. My current client that I am using with Azure, I am using Zulu because that was, again, from before they started cutting their own release. And again, Zulu just works. So I've been using that. Well, I look at the Microsoft one. I think for me, the decision comes down to, well, what is it that the opinion that you're making that's different? Again, if you're just building OpenJDK, I can already get that from Azul. And I know they have a TCK. The article actually doesn't state whether they're actually releasing it against a tested TCK, or they're doing that due diligence, where I know that the Azul folks are. They certify it.
Has the Java Champions doc been updated yet?
Good question. I don't know. I haven't looked at that yet for this specifically, but Bruno Borges is on that list. And I think he was, I don't know if he was one of the authors, but
yeah, he's or no, not the author, but at least he's quoted in there.
Yeah. But that's what I'd be looking for if I was being asked to switch. Like, why would I switch from Zulu to the Microsoft distribution? Because again, have a client on Azure. It could make sense, again, because you want to stay with your cloud provider's standard version of the JDK for consistency. If they're providing function interfaces, it's like, well, I better code against the runtime that they're going to use, not the one that I have installed on my laptop. But yeah, to me, that's the use case. But if I'm using app services, I'm using containers where I have more control over the environment. There's a lot of other options to choose from at this point.
Now
they're more mature.
There's a couple of questions I do have, because I kind of remember where Temurin is essentially, that was part of the adopt on OpenJDK,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So that's an Eclipse project now.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so that was Martin Vermeer, and I thought
Yes.
Microsoft was paying for the infrastructure to actually run the OpenJDK.
That I think is true. But is how do you pronounce it again? You said Temurin. I don't think that's the same as what Microsoft is releasing, because I think they're doing their own build, right? Yeah.
But yeah, so it's interesting because you get one Temurin is almost like the Glassfish or of the OpenJDK, right? I just took the source code and built it, right? And that kind of started first in its own little thing, then kind of Microsoft took it over, and maybe that's where they got some of some of the knowledge of how to build their own thing. But I wonder,
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, I wonder, is it mean that they're gonna keep supporting Temurin, or they want to make a play where they want to exit out of that?
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, but as I understand it, as far as compatibility is concerned, and again, release discipline is, I don't believe Eclipse is running the TCK against it. I do not believe Eclipse owns a TCK or has been granted one.
I think you're right. Well, Eclipse doesn't release binaries, does it? I thought that was one of those weird things. Eclipse doesn't release binaries of it. Isn't it an adoptium? Is the
Yeah, maybe you're right.
There's a weird. I thought there was a weird relationship with how Eclipse handles theirs.
I mean, that's kind of like the Apache thing, where it's like, hey, we'll provide you with convenience binaries, but the binaries are not owned by the foundation. It's the source code that's owned by the foundation. Yeah, it could be something similar to that.
One other thing with Microsoft that we haven't brought up is Microsoft bought jQuery a while back.
They absolutely did.
So
and they're all working there.
Exactly. So there could be an angle there with regards to those
tools for introspection and stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So there could be an angle there as well with this that they just haven't marketed yet.
Now, to close on, we'll put links to the show notes. But the fun part is, one of the quotes on the actual article is from Richard Campbell, which runs .NET Rocks. So he's like the mirror image of what we do here. It's on the other side, and now we're this seems like a point of convergence now. So maybe we do a cross show together, right? A crossover episode. .NET Rocks with Java. So Richard, if you're listening, hey, open call. All right, next one. We have the Java Playground. Who was
that's Josh.
So we were talking about JDK 21. If you've not yet taken a look at it, you could go now to the Java Playground, which is on dev.java, and you can start running JDK 21 code right in your browser. The way it's set up, there's an interpreter that's been built into the browser. You basically type in what you want source code wise, and then you click run, and it will go ahead and compile and run the code right in front of your face. And it's really nice because it gives you a chance to, instead of using JShell or something, just open a browser up, go right here to this thing, run some examples, try something out, especially for those who are just getting started, or if you're just trying to tinker in the new JDK 21 features. This is something.
And it's got examples of all of them too, where it's like it text blocks, records, streams, switch, pattern matching, under miscellaneous function interfaces, simple collections, functions, chaining. So some of the really complex things that you wouldn't generally think of right off the bat. It's kind of cool. You got examples of it. You can kind of see, okay, oh, that's how that works, and tinker with it and hack it and rerun it to see, if your stuff works with it. So
now
I like stuff like this.
This is interesting because I'm trying to figure out, is it because this is not a complete Java like syntactical class declaration. Is it JShell supporting that, or is it generating like a wrapper class to run it?
I think this looks like JShell to me, to be honest.
It does.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you don't have to type the whole class out. You can just run things, right?
Yeah. Like the one that throws me off is like there's one for switch statements with an enum declaration in the middle. I'm like, it's
there's an enum defined in line, right? That feels weird. But
I missed something.
But I think you could do that in JShell. I believe that if you wrote that in JShell, it would work.
Okay.
So again, it's dev.java, so that's an Oracle owned web property, as far as I know. There's people we know we could ask if we really wanted to know the answer to that question. I just like that it's there, and they've got some good examples on it. So I think that's another good one to include in the show notes.
Yep. Yeah, no, I love it. Like get the ceremony out just to try something out. All right. I guess the next one is that was mine. Google Antitrust trial. So this is something that maybe we put it as a news item, but is kind of worth start following it up later. Depending on like where things go. Like for those who don't know, it's like the Department of Justice actually essentially is suing Google because of their dominance of like search engines. A lot of it is that when you get a new phone, be this Android or Apple, or usually when you I guess Microsoft will be Bing if you get a Microsoft computer, but for a lot of the places where you can get devices, Google comes as a de facto standard search engine. Like even if you don't type anything on the search bar, you just type keywords, it will usually we go to Google. And now it's essentially like we're kind of like debriefing a little bit earlier. This sounds like the Microsoft browser wars, where like Internet Explorer was still everywhere and there was very hard to change. Well, apparently the Department of Justice thinks that Google is making the same play. And one of the interesting parts about it was that Google is paying for the privilege. Like I think
the Apple, right?
In terms of, it was billions to Apple for being it's 15 to 20 billion dollars to Apple to be their default search engine, which is that's a pretty penny.
That's the fun part about this. I don't know if any of you guys have read the book Nudge by it's Cass Sundrum and Richard Thaler. It's another cognitive science type book. So I read a lot of those, but it's about one of the things they cover is just how kind of defaults work with people. And it's interesting that Antitrust is now interested in the defaults, because Nudge is all about taking advantage of bias and trying to nudge people to do the right thing by putting a bias in there that kind of makes the right decision for you. Whereas defaults, it's like, I am paying you 20 billion to make this the right decision for you. And now it's an antitrust thing. Whereas like the Microsoft thing was like, yeah, it's Internet Explorer. We installed it for you. You're going to fricking use it because it's the default. You can install Chrome. You can install Firefox. You can do whatever you want, but it's already installed for you. Now it's, you can use whatever browser you want, but the default for this browser is this. You can change it
if you want.
Yeah. But is your mother going to change it? Is your grandmother going to change it? Is your dad going to change? Like, probably not.
What's interesting with that one is, and this goes back to what I mentioned before the show. So I don't use Chrome. I rarely use Safari. I use Brave. And because of that, my primary search engine is DuckDuckGo. When you install Brave, it asks you what search engine you want. Like that's part of the first time you launch it. That's it. Here's the list.
Yeah.
Do you want to add a different one that's not on the list? Even if you presented that, going back to Bob, what you just said, even if you had presented that list to your mom, you're still going to pick Google. Like, it's not like this is a little different in that okay, like Google could just roll over, play dead, and be like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like if I were them, I'd be looking to settle, be like, okay, put up the flash page that lets people pick. It ain't gonna change.
No, it is interesting too.
And it probably saved them $20 billion.
Doesn't this feel like the ask toolbar when you install Java, where it would just throw the it's like, again, another smart default.
Yeah.
No, and it's interesting because like the thing is that what they were saying is or the argument to use smart justice, like Google is saying, well, we are the best at searching, right? But part of it is because you get most people searching on it, right? Like that refines the machinery, that makes it better. You start knowing what results work. And that is almost like a problem of scale. Like the reason why you are quote unquote the best is because you dominated the default. Like,
well, you also played $20 billion to make sure every Apple device comes with you as the default to keep that advantage.
I don't know. I don't know that I could even go with the argument though that Google's the best. Like like I said, I've been on DuckDuckGo now long enough where I honestly feel like I have not lost a darn thing. It really is like the only thing actually that I would argue that Google does that I'm quite happy to give up is the customized results. Like that it learns about you enough to customize your results. So like if anybody on this podcast searches for the word Java, you're getting programming languages. If our parents search for Java, you're going to get the country or coffee. Like
right.
it's I'm quite content giving that up, or at least having it tracked some other way. But I would argue that the search, at least between DuckDuckGo, my experience in Google, they're so close. It's
you're still on the first page, and to give another data point, like I switched to DuckDuckGo too because Google was a little creepy. It's and to be honest, I switch it when it comes to things around addresses. Like if
Google does a better job. I will agree with that.
Yeah, it is like or like if I'm shopping for like I do want to know what's out there for this thing. Like even though DuckDuckGo has a shopping tab where you can get things organized, Google is better, and it's probably just more integrations. But yeah, to be fair, like DuckDuckGo, it is my default. And I rarely it's rare when I need to switch to Google to search something. But
yeah, Michael, you said that when you want to search something about people, Google is definitely better. That's just because it's like a phone book. It's they did a search 10 years ago, and here's what they searched about, and they're interested in this. It knows everything about everyone.
Yep.
It's kind of scary.
They track you. They know where you've been. They know you're being naughty or nice, and they will sell you this stuff. All right. So yeah, like in that, I think we're just gonna like keep an eye on it because it could get interesting. That's it. And now for the
should we go to conferences first?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah, let's do the conference.
That's quick.
All right. So who put this one in? J Champions.
J Champions is the Java Champions conference where everyone is speaking. Everyone that is speaking is a Java champion. This is online only, and it's only Java champions giving talks, but great talks, great opportunity to speak to the Java champions, one-on-one with the chat. They'll be there. They'll be conversing with the audience, and this is happening January 25th through Tuesday the 30th.
Mhm.
And so I definitely recommend going and checking that thing out online, because you can go to your desk in your house and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's free admission, right?
Free admission. Yep.
All
And you
right.
can actually catch all the talks from last year and the year before. If you go and take a look at the website right now, they're all posted.
It's the right price point.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is JFall.
Yep. This is, I believe, JFall's in Netherlands, correct?
Yep.
And happening in November 9th. So definitely be a good one to, if you're in the area over there. I hear it's a fantastic conference. Lots of great people, lots of great talks. So another good one. Take a look at if you're out there in that direction. I actually have met Richard Fitchner, I believe, that helps to run the JCon World Conference. Great guy. He's got, this conference has a lot of great speakers. Definitely one to check out. It's all online again. This is the 21st of November, JCon World 2023. If you haven't heard of it before, take a look at it and you'll see lots of familiar faces there.
Now that's another European conference too, right, Josh? Or
yes, it is. But it's
is
happening
that
online.
one?
So
Oh, it is online. Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Because that one sounded like did that one used to have an on-prem schedule too, or was that always just online only?
That's what I think you're correct, because when I saw this, I thought, wow, it's online only this year. And I thought in the past, I had remembered that this was something they did in person as well.
Okay.
So maybe it's just changing to online only, just this year. That's a new thing. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's interesting.
With the virtual aspect, do you know with the schedule, what the time zone orientation is? Is it oriented towards Europe, or is it 24 hours? Just so our audience knows,
Good question, Michael, and I do not know. I don't know, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I'm on the website, so let me look here.
Well, so the times that are posted are CET.
Yes.
So CET is what, Central European time?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So is
starting
it
at 9 a.m. CET. So I forget what that is. The offset is
6 hours, 7 hours, something like that. So
yeah.
So it would be evening / over.
Yeah.
Night
So it's definitely going to be not during the business day here in the U.S.
Correct. Yeah. So it's 1 hour ahead of UTC. So you're from Central Time, that's like 7 hours, something like that, ahead of US if you're in the Midwest. So 9 a.m. their time is 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Ish.
Going and actually Keto is gonna be speaking there.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
One of ours.
Yeah, we like Keto.
All right.
And is there? Okay, so I saw on dev.java, they've got a whole list of conferences, and one that looked interesting that's coming up in December is DevTernity. I don't know too much about it. I just figured I would put it in here and mention it. This thing is happening online as well, so it's worth taking a look at. Looked like it was kind of interesting as far as what they're going to cover there. And so devternity.com to get
interesting
information.
Yeah, they got a lot of big name speakers there.
They do.
They have a lot of interesting speakers. So they have Bob Martin, they have DHH, they have Sam Newton. Okay. They have Daniel Turhorse North, Daniel North, Kelsey Hightower. Yeah. Interesting. I've not heard of this one, but yeah, they've got a lot of big names on it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard Bob Martin at a conference in a long time.
I haven't either. So it's actually an interesting mix.
I was saying, in the fact that Kelsey is going this is a combination that I would have
at the same conference.
They're doing a keynote together.
there's
Yeah,
a
like, I
number
wouldn't
of
expect
people that I
those
would
to
not have
speak
expected
together
to
with-
see together at this conference. It could be an interesting. At least it's online, so they won't
Yeah.
they won't fight.
that one's gonna have a delay, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's the safest way to do it.
Yeah.
Is Ted Neward speaking?
I didn't see Ted Newart there. I did not.
That'd be the only one that would like kind of.
Or it might get physical.
Oh, well,
Oh no,
like,
yeah.
no.
Oh, if the conditions are right, yes. I could.
I do not see him there.
No.
As much fun as that would be.
Then you can just charge. You're just charging for like the fight.
He'll just be an attendee. Yeah.
Oh god.
And then the next one would be if you're in Stockholm
Yes.
in February, you can go to JFocus. This is a great conference from what I've understood. Lots of, again, great speakers, great talks. I think the early tickets are already sold out. So you're going to be paying
Matisse
full price.
Carlson's conference, right? Is it? Is
Yes.
that?
Yeah, he runs it or he helps run it, and it's he puts his heart and soul in
He
it.
does. Yeah. No, that's one I really want to go to. It's just getting to Europe for me is not. It's complicated.
No, I hear you, but damn. So yeah,
Says Freddie, who was in Europe this year at.
it took a while too. Maybe next year.
Yeah, they got Venkat.
Everybody has Venkat because Venkat goes everywhere.
He goes everywhere. Yeah, that's true. Chris Richardson. We know Mark Reinhold from Oracle. Matt Rabel.
Oh, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a lot of usual suspects there as well.
Yep.
And then and I added this one late. We're actually talking during the meeting. I'm like, is it too early to add DevNexus? No, it's not.
Never too early.
April 9th through the 11th in Atlanta. One of our favorites, run by some good friends of ours. We've submitted OffHeap to be there, so no pressure, guys, except our talk.
We love you.
But yeah, no, great conference, right price point, amazing content for the especially for the price. You get all the love of Java 1 in Atlanta.
Yeah, for sure.
Since like it's probably one of the considered the best Java conference in America now, right?
Yes.
In the US. All right. With that out, with the conferences lined up, let's go to our discussion topic.
Yeah.
Which is Java's positioning in the latest AI wave. Open floor.
Yeah, I guess if you haven't been paying attention, if you've been looking at jobs, if you've been looking at the news recently, is everything we've hit the peak where everything is all about AI again.
Yep.
And you can say again because AI comes in waves, right? But this one does seem a little bit different. This one does seem significant, at least to me. And a lot of companies are trying to figure out how to leverage it. And the genesis of this topic when we were talking about it before the show was it's like we're like every job posting that is related to AI is asking for Python experience. And I think everyone in this room is like, well, wait a minute. Like Java is in the AI game too. And in a significant way. So the talking point here is really about, so I'm a Java developer and there's this big wave of AI hitting the market right now. What is the play for Java in this market? And I think what we're going to find is there's a fairly significant play for Java developers in this market.
Yeah, if we can take a step back with regards to why Python is associated with AI in the first place. And really that even goes back to when Python leapfrogged over C and Java to become the number one language on like was it TIOBE, that index, language popularity index. Back when that happened, when we talked about AI, we talked about a bunch of PhDs, sitting at laptops or whatnot, trying to come up with these models, trying to do the create the neural nets and try to build these models and do the batch training themselves. That is what we're talking about today is fundamentally, in my opinion, fundamentally different. They are not developing models anymore. The models have been created. The models that we talk about, when we talk about open AI, when we talk about ChatGPT, when we talk about, the stuff at Hugging Faces and whatnot, those models are at a scale that the average enterprise cannot do. Those models take millions of dollars and insane amounts of compute resources to train and generate. Those are things that you're not gonna, even big enterprises that I can think of, the big box retailers, the big banks, whatnot, even they're not going to take on the generation of those kinds of models. So then you step back and okay, so what is the role if I'm not creating the model, what is the role of AI in my ecosystem? And that's where, for me, I start to question the Python push right now, because I believe it's less about the data science, math bits that Python helped, in the previous days. And it's more about augmenting and providing context for the models through various mechanisms that various frameworks do, and application integration. How do I integrate ChatGPT or OpenAI or whatever the model that meets my requirements from Hugging Faces? How do I integrate those into my use case? That's an application problem. That's not a data science problem. And I think everybody on this podcast would agree that application problems are usually a whole lot better solved in Java than they are in Python. Call me crazy here.
No, yeah. Yeah, just to chime in on that too. I do think that there is a part of a role that you do have data science trying to play with, and this is kind of like we were talking before. There might be kind of a predictive modeling for detecting hallucinations, or essentially you try to curate the input or output of these large language models, right? You don't run those, you get a ChatGPT API, you get requests, you get a response, and then you kind of then going through some kind of verification process where it's yeah, this makes sense, or this might not make sense, or this might be an hallucination, right? But that is kind of a little part of it, right? And I think
I think that's a problem that will eventually go away. Not that I think the models are going to be smart enough. I think that the tooling around it is going to be smart enough where we don't need data scientists to figure that stuff out. I think that we're already seeing some of the tools LangChain and other examples like that are building in testing facilities to validate. I asked it, is the sky blue? And it said,
no.
bikes have round wheels. Is that a valid answer or not? You're already starting to see tooling around validation of that kind of stuff. That does not require a data science degree or Python to validate, right? That's
no, and I think that is kind of also if you see right now, there is probably a window of 6 to a year where people are hiring prompt engineers, right? People that are only job is to write and craft the prompt that you're gonna ask a large language model to give you the best answer. And it's kind of funny because one of the examples is they say whatever the Microsoft one was, that if you ask it for give me a JSON response, 3/4 of the time will do it, 1/4 of the time will not do it, unless you say you must write JSON response or somebody will die. And then apparently that is the instruction that the Bing's AI will take it in and actually give you correctly formatted JSON response. But the truth is that is short-lived. It has a sunset, right? It's the language models are going to start building these facilities of understanding your prompt better. And it will be part of the large language models just to interpret it. And you don't need somebody who's a wizard of speaking or a wizard of trying to detect flaws or hallucinations in the system. These are just going to be things that are going to come naturally. So yeah, you get 6 months to be a prompt engineer, 2 years for that Python job, because Python can be used in many other places.
The other aspect of it is that the data, right? So the thing that scares a lot of people away from the language models that are out there right now is, so ChatGPT, if I start publishing customer data there and I don't have a way,
on-prem.
Yeah, if I need it on-prem. So I'm going to want that pre-trained model on-prem, and I want to host it in a way that's scalable. And I want to be able to augment it with data that I have. You know, the one of the biggest things with companies right now is I have data that is not part of the training set for ChatGPT or part of these large language models, but I also want to leverage that data to train these models. Well, you're going to start with a model and you're going to augment it with a Spark job, or you're going to augment it with, you know, an Apache Flink data stream that's coming in from somewhere else. So you're going to be using Java open source projects and the data produced by them to tune these large language models. So, I mean, you know, the Java angle on making these enterprise worthy, you can, because I'm not going to be setting this to OpenAI. I'm going to be using something that's internal. So this data, this customer data, this proprietary data that I have as a part of my company doesn't get out to the rest of the world.
Yeah, you can use vector databases that you can use to provide context to models and whatnot. And we're already seeing each public cloud is starting to have their own AI presence for public cloud. But to your point, Bob, like,
it's coming.
Just how companies for many years were nervous about running their code in the cloud because it wasn't on-prem.
Yeah,
it's gonna take that same time to allow the data at the level we're talking about to go off-prem as well. That's why, you know, like Hugging Face is such a big thing, because you download the model and you run it locally. Like and so you can do all that kind of thing in-house. Because for a while, I do think that companies will view whatever they're doing with AI as secret sauce, if you will. Like, they're going to view that as a differentiator.
Yep.
5 years from now, unless you're getting really advanced stuff, which most of the companies
are not.
Very few enterprises will be able to do that. Like, it'll coalesce around, you know, like SaaSes that offer, you know, real important stuff. But like, you know, the one of the primary cases everybody's hearing about right now, you know, like adding chat bots to documentation or you know, things like that, right? Like, those are all things that, you know, any one of us on this call could start a company up, throw together enough AI to do, and like we'd be profitable. Like,
talk me into it, Michael. How much money could I make?
We'll talk next month.
And you can use Spring AI to do it.
I was waiting for that.
Tell
us about Spring AI, Michael.
Yeah.
So going back to the, you know, where AI fits in today is really less about the data science and the math and neural nets and all that kind of stuff. It's really about how do you take advantage of that into a business use case. Mm-hmm. Spring AI takes an approach similar but not the same as LangChain. So LangChain is a Python library. There's actually a LangChain for J as well, I believe. And the idea here is, think of it. Mark Pollock, who's the co-founder, who's the founder of the project, will probably shoot me for this analogy, but think of it as SLF for J, but for AI. And so the idea being that there are certain inputs and outputs that every one of these interactions do. You have to provide a prompt of some kind, right? There's a way to provide a context of some kind. There's you know, different inputs that you get, and then typically you get an output that's a string. You know, going back to the JSON example, right? Like, one of the things that most of these hosted models do horribly is it gives you a dumb string. It doesn't give you a JSON object. So like the actual REST API, here's a string. Good luck with it.
Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, one of the things that Spring AI looks to do is it gives you the facilities to implement this stuff in a Spring application. So things like type conversions, all the converters of, taking that dumb string, converting it to a JSON object and mapping it to real POJOs, like all of that kind of stuff that makes it more consumable from your application. All that's just baked in because it's Spring. Like all that kind of stuff is in the project. It is an experimental project right now. So the first commit was literally about 2 months ago. But it has it's getting obviously a lot of steam. There's a ton of interest around it. If you are listening and you're interested in the space, check it out. We're definitely looking for feedback. Microsoft has a workshop, I believe, that you can even do online on Azure as well with Spring AI as an example. Yeah.
No. I mean,
Nice.
and I guess what that means is it's like, don't get discouraged that you picked the wrong language to specialize in. I think there is utility on all of them, but yeah, like the bulk of the large language models is not something that you we will be working on, is because that's going to be provided, like somebody who just creates the actual model. But for the fine tuning and for the pre and post and do essentially pipelining event streams on that's we're all sitting on the right place, right? Like this is because that is what makes a model from just being a novelty to really, really useful for companies, right? So
and this kind of thing, like we're just scratching the surface of operationalizing these things. So yeah, congratulations. You can submit a prompt and you can get a valid response back. How do I know it's not being abused? How do I prevent my users from abusing it? How do I prevent me from being liable for when people do abuse it? So like if I'm on my big bank's website and they got a chat bot down there that lets me ask questions about my account, and it's backed by Chat GPT. What's to stop me from asking how do I build a bomb, like kind of thing? And all of a sudden my bank told me how to do this. Like that puts them like, how do you protect yourself from these kinds of things? So there's a whole additional set of functionality that has again nothing to do with AI, nothing to do with models or any of that stuff, but that we will need to be able to implement to allow this to really be comfortable to be mainstream. And none of that's going to be Python.
Yeah.
And talking about just to add in with the Java being good for AI, I was doing a little bit of looking around, and there are a ton of AI libraries for Java. Another good reason to use Java for AI would be that it's cross-platform. You can use this anywhere, just about, except for iOS. But and then just a couple of the libraries, just to name a few: Apache Jena, PowerLoom, D3 Web I, Tweety. There's some neural networks, one called Neuroff, Deep Learning 4J, Apache Open NLP, Stanford Core NLP. I mean, the list goes on. There's a lot of them. So, AI is definitely not just starting on the Java platform. It is definitely mature in the Java platform and getting even more mature and growing.
I had forgotten about Apache Jena. We looked at this project years ago.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Yeah, the ontology classification stuff. That's stuff we got back in a previous life at Sears. Long time ago.
All right.
Cool.
I think that is we're probably getting close to the hour mark, but I think we can leave it there. It's AI is interesting. We're positioned well. There will be I think there's going to be a burst of all these things, and then they finally, when they realize it's like, oh, they're building into the models, and the model maturity is going to get into trough again. But for us engineers, the big thing will be, how do we productionalize this? And that's where we shine, baby. So
Right.
All right. And with that, I think we're done with another episode of OffHeap. This is Freddie signing off.
It's Bob signing off.
Josh signing off.
This is Michael signing off. If you are on Twitter, be sure to follow us at OffHeap. If you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.
All right. Another one. That was good.